Tammy Phillips, the executive pastor of Next Gen Ministries here at Centerpointe. We're glad you chose to join us today, whether on site or online. If you're new to Centerpointe, we want to extend a special welcome to you. We're honored to have you with us today. We'd like to invite you to fill out a digital connect card so we can make sure to connect with you. You can do that by texting the word welcome to 513-466-1676. If you've been with us for a while and you want to know more about Centerpointe, text information to that same number. Also, make sure to stop by the Welcome Center in the lobby where someone from our Connections team would love to meet you and give you a special welcome gift. If you call Centerpointe your home, there are 3 ways you can participate financially in supporting our mission and vision: through PushPay, on our mobile app, on our website, or in one of the offering boxes around the room. At Centerpointe, we love pouring into the next generation. We believe that when the church and the family partner together, a great impact happens on the life of a child. It's why we invest so much in our Next Gen Ministries. We want Sunday to be the best day of the week for our kids. And so today, I want to invite you to be part of making that happen. In the summer, we try to make every Sunday feel like a VBS event. So if you're a parent, summer is the perfect time to check out what happens in your child's environment. If you're not a parent, it's still a perfect time to engage in ministry, meet other people, and form connections. You don't need to prepare anything, just come and be willing to have a blast alongside our kids. For more information on how you can help, you can visit the hub in the lobby where Libby Wilms, one of our Next Gen staff, will find the perfect place for you to engage. Every summer, we partner with Reach Out Lakota, a local food pantry serving our community. So this month, pick up an extra bag of groceries when you're out shopping and help provide meals for those in need. Stop by the hub in the lobby to pick up a list of food items Reach Out Lakota needs to stock their shelves. Your donation should be dropped off in the hub by June 23rd. Culture says that there are many paths to truth and to God. Christianity claims that Jesus alone is the way to God. Aren't Christians just narrow-minded when it comes to other religions? How can Jesus be the only way? Well, today, our senior pastor, Shawn Spradling, will investigate the question of exclusivity as part of the Problem of God series, where we're exploring the hang-ups of Christianity. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are so glad that you're here.
You guys, that took 4 takes because she cried 4 different times doing that video. It's amazing. Oh, we love Tammy. I don't think she cried at all, actually. I just want to piggyback off something she said about Next Gen and engagement. If you're new here, you can ignore this message, but if you're not new here, you've been around here for a while, let me just remind you that we don't believe in spiritual consumerism here. We believe in spiritual contribution, that Jesus has given you some things to use for his kingdom. He's given us all a purpose and a plan and a mission. And so we want to put those things into practice here. So if you're not engaged in a ministry, this summer's a perfect time to check that out. So we hope that you'll do that. You know, we all have some words, some statements, some phrases that when you say them, it kind of gets our blood boiling. It gets us a little amped up. We kind of call those fighting words, and everybody has some fighting words. In fact, I don't know if you can see, I didn't say anything about it last service because I didn't think they could, but I have a black eye because I got in a fight yesterday with my dog, and he won. Jumped right on me, hit me in the eye. I thought I lost my eye, but it's just black. So still have it. But we got some fighting words. And so like, gold star is better than skyline. Those are fighting words right there. West is better than east, right? See right now, you're getting amped up. Case in point, you're getting riled up. Ford is better than Chevy, or Chevy is better than Ford, or LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. Yeah, those are fighting words. That's just not. My kids had some retro Jordans, Air Jordans, and they said, "Hey, Dad, did you have retro Jordans when you were growing up?" No, I had the real ones, okay? Because it wasn't retro then, all right? But Michael Jordan is the man, okay? So, but there are things that will get us riled up. I won't say anything about presidents, or we actually will get in a fight here, and we don't want that. But Trace Adkins has a song called Fighting Words, country song. Check out these lyrics. Everyone knows I'm the hard-working, peace-loving type. I walk 1,000 miles out of my way just to keep from a fight. poke fun at the way that I talk or this hat that I wear. You can say what you want about me, see if I care. But one slip of the tongue about my God or about my mama or this flag that I wear on my shirt, you'll see a side of me, man, I don't think you want to, cuz them there's fighting words. How can you not love country music? I mean, how can you not love that message? In the next verse, he talks about his dog. I mean, come on. So good. Listen, when it comes to religion, Jesus said something that has become fighting words in our culture. He said this, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. See, Christianity teaches that the only way back into a relationship with God is through Jesus Christ and his atoning sacrifice on the cross. And the reason we believe that is because Jesus said it. And the reason that we believe that everything that Jesus said was true and is valid is because when a man predicts his own death and resurrection, you just go with whatever he says. Right? You predict your death and your own resurrection, pull it off, I'll go with whatever you say. I'll follow you any day of the week. Now, we're going to talk more about that idea in a few weeks because Jesus is a hang-up for a lot of people. And so I'm bringing in an expert for that, so don't miss that in a few weeks. But every religion seeks to answer 4 fundamental questions. The question of origin, the question of meaning, the question of morality, and the question of destiny. Every religion seeks to answer these 4 questions. Origin is, how do we get here? Meaning, why are we here? Morality, how do we behave here? And then destiny, how do we get out of here? How do we get out of here? See, every major religion seeks to answer these 4 questions. And here's what we all agree on. We all agree on the fact that this world is not the best of all possible worlds, every religion. That there's something better. And it seeks to answer how we get to that something better. Now, I've worked through the evidence myself, and I've found Christianity to be the most logical, most rational, most reasonable worldview. I believe it has the best answers to these 4 questions. And yes, I believe that Jesus is the only way back to God. It drives everything I do. I would not be a pastor if I did not believe that. If I believed that all paths led to God, I would not have an urgency about me to lead people to understand and know who Jesus is. But in our postmodern, morally relativistic culture, the exclusivity of Christians is offensive to a lot of people. Steve Turner wrote a poem. It's a satirical poem about the culture. He says, we believe Jesus was a good man, just like Buddha, Muhammad, and ourselves. We believe that all religions are basically the same. They only differ on matters of creation, sin, heaven, hell, God, and salvation. We believe each man must find the truth that is right for him. Reality will adapt accordingly. The universe will readjust. History will alter. We believe that there is no absolute truth, accepting the truth that there is no absolute truth. Right? This is the culture that we live in. Tim Keller was a pastor in New York City for 20 years. He said that in his book, Reasons for God, he said the exclusivity of Christianity was the most difficult thing he faced when defending Christianity, that, especially in the melting pot that is New York City. He was invited to be on a panel of religious experts, religious leaders. It was him, a Jewish rabbi, and a Muslim leader. And so in his book, Reasons for God, which is a great resource to check out if you want to explore this more deeply, he said this, we all agreed, the 3 of us, we all agreed on the statement. If Christians are right about God, then Muslims and Jews fail in a serious way to love God as God really is. But if Muslims and Jews are right that Jesus is not God, but rather a teacher or a prophet, then Christians fail in a serious way to love God as God really is. The bottom line was, we couldn't all be equally right about the nature of God. And he said that statement became fighting words in the room. It amped people up. It riled people up. People were offended that they would say that one of you, only one of you, can be right. And here's what that means. That Christianity is as equally exclusive as every other major religion. Every major religion believes that they have the right formula on how to reconnect with God and receive salvation. They are all exclusive. So if this is your hang up, you have a hang up with every religion, every major religion. Every major religion is exclusive. Islam does not teach that all paths lead to salvation. It teaches that there is one God. His name is Allah. He has a prophet, Muhammad. In order to receive salvation, you have to convert to Islam. You have to adhere to the 6 main doctrines. You have to practice the 5 duties. And anybody that rejects Muhammad's teaching goes to hell. Sounds exclusive. Hinduism is a polytheistic religion. Poly meaning many, theism meaning God. So it practices the worship of many gods, but it's uncompromising in its theology on karma, reincarnation, and its sacred scriptures. You cannot get to heaven, you cannot attain salvation until your good deeds outweigh your bad. That sounds exclusive. Buddhism began when its founder, who was a Hindu, rejected the absolute authority of the Hindu scriptures and the caste system. He did not believe those were necessary to achieve salvation. He believed he had a better way, so he founded this religion called Buddhism. Sounds exclusive. Then there's atheism, which rejects all religions. It teaches that there is no way to God because there is no God. Sounds exclusive. And atheism's answer to that 4th question, to destiny, is that when you die, there is nothing after this. And so if there is no destiny, then how we got here, how we behave here, and how we get out of here is irrelevant if we're not going anywhere after here. Yet, the irony is that atheism is just as enthusiastic about trying to answer those first 3 questions as every other religion and trying to convince people that their way is the right way, even though it technically is no way at all. Every ism on the planet is just as exclusive as Christianity, as they should be. As they should be. If you don't think you're on the right path, you'd be a fool to keep walking down it, right? But here's the thing. Any religion that teaches inclusivity is not worth exploring simply because of this principle right here, the principle of non-contradiction. The principle of non-contradiction states that 2 opposing ideas cannot both be true at the same time and in the same way. So if I said to you, hey, I believe the first president was Thomas Jefferson, you said no, it's Abraham Lincoln, which one of us is right? First hour said Abraham Lincoln. It's weird. No, neither. Thank you. Neither of us is right. See, it's entirely possible for both of us to be wrong. But if I said it's Thomas Jefferson, you said no, it's George Washington, one of us is right and one of us is wrong, but it is absolutely impossible for both of us to be right. Right? You cannot give a different answer to the same question and still both be right at the same time. That's just common sense. There's a truth that cannot be changed. It's absolute. It works that way with math. 3 plus 3 will always equal 6. We can both say 7 and be wrong. You can say 6 and I can say 7, and one of us is going to be right, one of us is going to be wrong, but we both can't be right. There's a mathematical truth that cannot be changed. It's absolute, or dare I say, it's exclusive. See, inclusivism teaches that there is no truth, but the irony is that its foundational teaching that there is no absolute truth is in itself a statement of absolute truth. It's a worldview that is based on a contradicting system which violates the principle of non-contradiction. Now here's the truth. Inclusivism excludes exclusivists and therefore isn't really inclusive at all. Inclusivism says that all ways are right. Therefore, if you believe only one way is right, you're not included. You're excluded. It's a contradicting system. It simply doesn't work to say that all religions are the same and that all religions are true because they all have fundamentally different answers to the 4 fundamental questions that every religion seeks to answer. And so they cannot all be true at the same time. They can all be wrong, but they can't all be right. Now, life doesn't work that way, right? But in our postmodern culture, truth is relative, meaning that what is true for you isn't necessarily true for me. You live your truth, I'll live my truth. We'll all get to the same place eventually. But we don't treat any other aspect in life that way. You and I operate in exclusivity every single day. When you drive south on 75, you drive exclusively in the southbound lane. Can you get there in the northbound lane? Yep. But not without tons of carnage, right? Because there are laws, there are rules, there's order. And we follow the order. It matters when flying. If you're trying to fly to Miami, you have a specific terminal and a specific gate and a specific time where you have to be to get to Miami. Go to a different terminal or a different gate, probably not going to Miami. Right? If your pilot is circling the runway to land in Miami, do you prefer they land to the terminal closest to you or the one they were instructed to land on? Like, could you just swing into F? Because that would be a lot quicker for me just to get to where I need. No, we follow the rules. We follow the order. Exclusivity matters at the gas station. I went to get gas last week and I put the unleaded pump in my truck. The problem is it takes diesel. You see the problem. Now, I realized it before I squeezed, but then I thought, isn't all gas the same? I mean, really, how offensive of my truck to say I'm only taking diesel? And I just started pumping. I didn't do that. Right? Because to do that would be to jack up my truck. It takes diesel exclusively. I'm not going to argue the point. There's a law, there's a rule, there's order. I'm going to follow it. Well, Shawn, nobody's going to drive south in the northbound lane on purpose. Nobody's going to try to fly to Miami from a different gate or a different terminal that doesn't go to Miami. That's just common sense, isn't it? That's my point. It's just common sense. And if exclusivity matters in the little things, why would we gamble on the things that matter most? See, when it comes to matters of origin, meaning morality and destiny, we cannot afford to hedge our bets. We can't afford to hedge our bets. That is Ricky Bobby theology. You know what I'm talking about, right? When he thought he was on fire, he went inclusive. Help me, Jesus. Help me, Jewish God. Help me, Tom Cruise. Help me, Oprah Winfrey. I wanted to show the clip, but Tidy Whitey's kept me from doing it, all right? My professor would not be happy with me if he'd roll over in his grave. I don't know which one's right, so I'm just going to call on all of them. But here's the thing. If you're on fire, you better get the right one. If you're on fire, you better get the right one. When it comes to matters of origin, meaning, morality, and destiny, we cannot afford to hedge our bets. Christianity teaches that there is an absolute truth. There is a right way. There is one who saves. From the fire, Peter said this in Acts chapter 4, salvation is found in no one else. For there's no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. This statement and the one that Jesus made about himself in John 14 serve as cornerstones of the church's mission. We believe these statements to be true, and so we not only accept them as true, but we share them with other people because we believe that Jesus offers the right answers to the 4 questions that we're all asking, especially the question of destiny. See, out of all the worldviews, out of all the religions, Christianity offers the best answer to the question of origins. We talked about that in week 1 and 2. So if you missed that, go back and watch it online. It offers the best answer to the question of evil and suffering. We talked about that in week 3. Christianity not only offers a response to evil and suffering, it offers a personal God who stepped down into it to pull us up out of it. Hinduism and Buddhism chalk evil and suffering up to illusion. It's your problem. You have to fix it. Christianity believes half of that statement is true. It's your problem. But you can't fix it. And so God came himself to fix it. Christianity offers the best explanation, the best answer to the question of meaning. Why are we here? Why do we exist? What is our purpose? See, we were created to have a relationship with God. We were created for worship. We're all worshipers. We all worship something. Worship simply means to attribute worth to. We talked about this a few weeks ago. We look for things to attribute worth to because we were encoded to worship. We were programmed to worship. We were hardwired to worship, and so we do. The problem is we worship the wrong things. We move from one thing to the next trying to fill the void that can only be filled in a relationship with our Creator. Paul says this in Romans. First 3 chapters of Romans talks about the problem of humanity. Chapter 1, he says it for verse 25. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator. You know why divorce happens most often? It's because we put expectations on our spouse to be our functional Savior. We don't do it on purpose. We don't walk into that relationship thinking they're going to save us, but that's innate in us. The need to be saved is innate within us. The need to worship is innate within us. And so we look for those outlets, and we put that on our spouse, hoping they can fill this void within us. And then one day we realize they're not perfect. They can't fill the void. They can't actually save us. And then we're disenfranchised with the relationship, and we look to worship something else, or we look to worship someone else. Marriage is a created thing. Your spouse is not your God. Don't worship them. Work is a created thing. Your job is not your God. Don't worship it. Money is a created thing. Money is not your God. Don't worship it. Sex is a created thing. Sex is not your God. Don't worship it. Your kids are a created thing. You created them. They're not your God. Don't worship them. The evil we battle in our lives is the result of exchanging the truth of God for a lie and worshiping created things. We're looking to answer the question of meaning in all the wrong places, but Christianity gives the absolute best answer. It's found in worshiping the Creator. Ravi Zacharias, who's a Christian apologist, he said this. He said, God does not call us to meaning by asking us to be good people. He doesn't call us to meaning just by telling us to love one another. It is only in the experience of worship that meaning comes to be. Only something greater than pleasure can provide meaning. And this is the perpetual novelty of God Himself in worship. In Acts 17, the Apostle Paul, he goes into the city of Athens and he finds them worshiping many gods, very polytheistic culture. And there was even a statue there to an unknown God. And so Paul, who is a missionary and an exclusivist, who's been transformed by the hope of Jesus and has been called to mission to share the hope of Jesus, he just can't help. He's got to stand up and he's got to call their attention to it. Here's what it says. All the Athenians and the foreigners who lived there spent their time doing nothing but talking about and listening to the latest ideas. It sounds like the place where you work, doesn't it? Culture hadn't really changed. We're still talking about the latest ideas, still trying to solve the world's problems. But then Paul stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and he said, people of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. You are looking for the answers to origin and to meaning and to morality and to destiny. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, to an unknown God. You don't want to leave anybody out. And so you are ignorant of the very thing you worship, and this is what I'm going to proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth. He Himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. From one man, He made all the nations that they should inhabit the whole earth. Paul says, here's the answer to origin. God Himself created everything. He's given you life and He's given you meaning and He's given you purpose. It all comes from Him. Why, Paul? Why? He did this so that they would seek Him and perhaps reach out for Him and find Him, though He is not far from any one of us. God did this because He has a purpose for you. There's meaning in your life. You're trying to answer this question of meaning. Here's the answer. Worship. God did this because he wants you to find him. He wants you to seek him. For in him we live and move and have our being. For in him we have purpose and meaning. Therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by human design and skill. You can't craft God. You can't make God. You can't shape God. He's bigger than that. But you've tried. And in the past, God overlooked such ignorance. But God has a standard of morality. And so now he commands all people everywhere to repent because he's given you, he's programmed in you this idea of acting justly and acting right and doing what's good. And now he's calling you to do that thing. Why? Because he has set a day. Destiny. He has set a day when he will judge the world with justice by the man he has appointed. How do you know, Paul? Because he has given us proof of this to everyone by raising him from the dead. They were seeking answers to origin, to meaning, to morality, to destiny, but they were worshiping the wrong things. And so Paul steps in, as we're all called to do. And he redirects them. And he says to them, Jesus is where you're going to find the answers. He is the truth that you seek. Out of all the gods you're worshiping, Jesus is the best idea. And he's the best answer to the questions you're asking. And here's how we know God raised him from the dead. And when a man predicts his own death and resurrection and actually pulls it off, you what? You just go with whatever he said. You just go with whatever he said. Here's what he said. If you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If the truth will set us free, and Jesus said he is the truth, then freedom is only found in Jesus. And so we find pleasure from created things, but we find meaning from the Creator himself. And until you realize that, life will be a frustrating journey. And I think the reason that people don't like exclusivity, this is my opinion. I think the reason that people cringe at exclusivity is because deep down, we don't want to change. Deep down, we don't want to have to conform. We want to do our thing. That's the ultimate idea of freedom, right? I'm free to do what I want, go where I want, say what I want, eat what I want, sleep with who I want. In other words, we want to worship what we want to worship. We don't want to be told that there's actually a right way, because if I'm not on that right way, then I need to change my way. And that feels like a violation of freedom. But that's a wrong idea of freedom. Freedom doesn't come in doing what I want to do. It comes when I humbly operate within God's framework and his design. Right? Just think about God's design for sex. That is between one man and one woman who are united together in the covenant of marriage. It works in that context. No unwanted pregnancies, no STDs, no adultery, no pornography. Pornography, $1 billion industry in our country, wipes it out. If we just follow God's principle, God's design for sex. When we follow God's instructions for marriage, it works. One man, one woman, united together forever, submitting to one another. There is no issue in your marriage that cannot find resolution if you and your spouse would engage in a submission competition. You first. No, you first. No, you first. No, you first. How about that as the only thing you would ever argue about? Who goes first? Honor one another. Paul says that. Honor one another. Submit to one another. When we follow God's instructions for finances, it works. Give generously. Save diligently. Spend wisely. Do those three things in that order, in those ways. You will never be upside down financially. But here's what most of us do. We spend generously. We save sparingly. And we give begrudgingly, if there's anything left. And then we wonder why we constantly worry about money. Or why we constantly fight with our spouse about money. When we follow God's instructions to love our neighbor, it works. If you loved everybody the way that you want somebody to love you, you'd be everybody's favorite person. When we follow God's instructions to pray for our enemies, it works. Eventually, you would have no enemies. You can't continue to be an enemy with somebody you're praying for. People aren't the enemy. People are our neighbors. Jesus did not say, agree with your neighbor. He said, love your neighbor. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. You don't have to agree in order to love. Paul said, love never fails. Maybe we ought to try it. I got to tell you, if all religions lead to heaven, I'd still be on the Jesus train. I would still follow Jesus because he makes my life better and he makes me better at life. Following Jesus won't make your life easier. Life is hard regardless of what you believe. There is no easy path, but there is a right one. Following Jesus will make your life better because Jesus leads to freedom. See, I believe Christianity is true, not just because I believe the Bible, which I do. We'll talk about that next week. Not just because I believe Jesus rose from the dead, which I do, and we'll talk about that in 2 weeks. I believe Christianity is true because it works. Like I have seen people broken by grief rise up from the ashes and find reason to keep moving forward. Find purpose in the midst of pain. I've seen marriages broken by unfaithfulness find forgiveness and restoration through Jesus. I have seen addicted people broken by the pain of life find freedom and sobriety through Jesus. I have seen dying people broken by cancer look me in the eye and express their great hope through Jesus. And the fact is, one day we will all be in that same position. The brokenness of our world will lead us to the edge of death. And what? Here's the question. In what? Or in whom? Will you hedge your bets when that day comes? I wouldn't bet on Tom Cruise. I wouldn't bet on Oprah Winfrey. I wouldn't bet on Muhammad. His tomb is still occupied. And I wouldn't bet on myself. See, exclusivity matters when you take your last breath. Jesus is not only the best answer, he's the only answer. See, Jesus is the only way for everybody. He's the only way for everybody. As Paul wrapped up his message to the Athenians, Luke tells us that some people sneered at him. Some people rejected this idea that there's only one God, there's only one way. But others believed and became followers. And the same will be true for us. But when we share the message and the hope that Jesus is the only way, some people will sneer at us, but others will become believers. and followers. See, Christianity is exclusive in salvation, but it is inclusive in hope. Everybody's invited. Everybody's welcome. See, God himself is the true inclusivist. He wants to include everybody. He died for everybody, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. Jesus is the only way, and everybody is invited. That thing, this right here, drives everything we do. This drives our mission to love God, to serve others, and to lead people to Jesus. This drives our vision to be a place where broken people can come and experience the unconditional love of Jesus. This drives our expansion, and while we're giving sacrificially over the next 2 years to double our kingdom impact in this community, we believe that Jesus is the answer for everybody. And we believe that everybody is worth it. And the reason we believe that is because Jesus said it. And when a man predicts his own death and resurrection and pulls it off, you just go with whatever he says. And that man took a cross for you and for me because he's inclusive. So every week we take a minute to remember that act because it's central to what we do here, central to our worship. It's why God is worthy of our worship, because he gave all he had for us. So our ushers are going to pass the trays in just a few minutes. There are 2 cups. Underneath the juice is the bread. So you can just pull those cups out and pass the tray on and spend time giving thanks to God for this simple truth that you were worth the cross. Father, thank you for this moment to remember how inclusive you are. That salvation is extremely exclusive, that you are the way, the truth, and the life. But your love is extravagantly inclusive. That all are invited. All are welcome to bow the knee to you. In Jesus' name, amen.